Springfield-Branson National Airport is celebrating a big first for one of its own. Airport Operations Center lead Angela Pitts just earned the top credential in airport management, the Accredited Airport Executive, or AAE. It's a rigorous national designation that usually takes veteran managers years to achieve, but Pitts did it before her 26th birthday.
A lot of professionals do it later in their career because of the knowledge required and the years of experience. I've just been very fortunate and grateful to work for the Springfield-Branson National Airport and the leadership that has really pushed me and encouraged me and mentored me, made sure I got opportunities outside of my daily operations job to make sure that I truly understand how an airport runs and everything that goes into it.
Airport leaders say Pitts is now one of the youngest accredited airport executives in the country. They expect her to keep building her career in airport operations and management right here in the Ozarks.